Are we ready?
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Wine with Weeda. Today, I have a wonderful guest by the name of Vanessa Khoury. How are you, Vanessa?
Good. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for coming on Wine with Weeda to share your amazing story and how much you are advocating for your gorgeous daughter.
No problem. It's a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
So we met through a mutual friend, Dina, who is, I believe, your daughter's nutritionist.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I met Dina a few months ago, she did mention your name and how much support she's offering Gabby, who's your daughter. And she raised awareness of this event that's happening in September. And so naturally, yes. Dina and I are like, yep, let's go. Let's have fun, da-da-da-da-da. But unfortunately, I can't attend. But I thought, you know what, why not use the Wine with Weeda platform to raise awareness of your daughter's condition, particularly as I treat many children with communication difficulties. But I'm sure your story, although it might not be similar to many parents can definitely resonate with the struggles that you face with a child that has difficulties communicating, but in particular, what you are doing to raise awareness, to not only to reduce the stigma in our community, but also to give Gabby a voice, which is so important.
Yep, for sure.
Yep.
Dina's been amazing. Yep.
Yeah. No, you can continue. Continue.
It's been incredible and a huge support for us and huge advocate for Gabby. And she's definitely she's jumped on board, particularly to help raise awareness for Gabby's condition because it's so rare.
Yeah. So how about you talk to me about your family, and because Gabby's your eldest, and then we'll start with the whole process of your pregnancy with Gabby and the stages of how you were diagnosed and what happened after she was born.
Yeah. Gabby's my eldest. So she's just turned 6. And I've also got a 4-year-old son and a 14-month-old daughter. So busy. We're extremely busy, but very, very thankful. Gabby, I had a very normal pregnancy with Gabby, and I didn't think anything was wrong. It was my first pregnancy, and nothing was flagged in with any of the doctors during my pregnancy. So I guess for me it was like everything is going to be fine in my naivety. And when she was born, there was a couple of red flags, but nothing that we picked up at the time. There were only red flags. There were only red flags when we actually started to figure out that something was going on with Gabby. There were some issues with her feeding and her latching on for breastfeeding, which a lot of doctors or her pediatrician at the time and the nurses all just palmed off as, oh, this can just be normal, And so fast forward 6 months, Gabby was not meeting her milestones. She was really struggling, particularly with moving from milestone to milestone. So she was meeting some milestones, but you could see that she was having like a real struggle with some of the milestones that she was supposed to be achieving. I've got older brothers and all of them have kids, and I saw a lot of my nieces and nephews growing up and something did not seem right at all.
Yeah.
And call it mother's intuition. I was just like, something is happening to my daughter and I have absolutely no idea what it is. So I went to the pediatrician and I asked him, what's happening? Is something going on with her? We got palmed off probably, I don't know, I would say half a dozen times until I put my foot down. Yeah.
You spoke about her milestones not being met. So you mentioned feeding as one. Just with the feeding, you obviously weren't able to breastfeed. Did they give you a particular bottle for her to have formula in, or
No, so I was pretty keen to breastfeed her, so I pushed on, but she was very underweight, so we had to supplement with bottles. I have to say straight out, there was very little to no support because they just did not think that it was like something super serious. They were just like, well, this happens with lots of babies, so just kind of push on with breastfeeding. And then I started to get really worried, went to the doctors, and basically what they did was they made me give her this stuff prior to breastfeeding her. So I'd mix it with boiled water and give it to her by syringe before I breastfed her to keep her milk down. She was very, very refluxy, like unbelievable. She would not keep anything down. Yeah. Coupled with the fact that she wasn't able to latch properly, she was very underweight, and obviously that's extremely concerning with a newborn baby. And then we started to have loads of issues with like just her like she rolled early, but then everything else was lagged. Like everything else was very much like, you know, when you're supposed to progress from rolling to getting into all fours to crawling to
Vanessa, I just lost you. I just lost you. You back?
I don't know what happened.
I see you, Vanessa. You just keep talking. You've just frozen. So you were mentioning
so we would
just stop for a bit. You said she was able to roll, but all those other gross motor milestones such as her sitting, crawling, she wasn't meeting them. And the pediatrician, how many pediatricians did you go to at that 6-month age?
So we continued to see the pediatrician that we saw when we first had Gabriella. And he was supposed to be like a really amazing pediatrician. And he kept saying to me, oh, your daughter's doing more things than what my grandchild is doing. So you're fine. I think you're just paranoid. At that point, I fell pregnant with my son. And that was a huge surprise for us because we weren't planning on having another baby that quickly, particularly because we were so anxious and stressed about everything going on with Gabby.
Of course.
So he basically told me that I was hormonal and that I just needed to relax a little bit and enjoy my pregnancy and enjoy my baby and to stop worrying so much. And that I was basically like over-parenting. And
That's
so
so disgusting that they say that. They cannot dismiss your concerns like that when clearly there were concerns with her development. Was there a baby nurse that supported you, like through the hospital?
Yeah. Also, again, we took her to the childhood nurse and she was just like, look, there doesn't seem to be like huge concerns. Some of the difficulties you're having with feeding, etc., are very typical of newborn babies. Likewise with reflux, you know, she was linked in with that particular doctor as well. So a lot of the stories like just matched up. And I felt like, okay, well, if this person's saying that everything's okay and this person's saying everything's okay, then everything must be okay. But then that mum intuition inside of me, something was just like in my gut saying to me, like, something is absolutely not right. Like something is happening. And I would literally just fixate on her during the day and watch her. And I'm like, something is not like kids. I mean, I've got two other children now. And particularly my newest one, like I just watch her learn things all by herself without having to be maneuvered into certain positions and whatnot. And I just think about like Gabby not showing those signs that she was developing into those milestones. And that was the biggest red flag for me. And so one day I just got fed up. And I said to my husband, I'm like, I'm going back to the pediatrician. I'm going to Google everything under the sun that I think that you know, like might be. So I literally spent one whole night Googling all of the symptoms that my daughter was displaying. And I took a piece of paper to him and I said to him, if you can guarantee me that my daughter doesn't have any of these conditions and that there's nothing wrong with her, and you can sign this, I'll go get a second opinion and I'll get them to, you know, do some testing and find out like what is happening, and I'll leave you alone. He just looked at me and he's like, I'm not sure why you just don't wait till your daughter's 18 months old and just see if you're still worried then. And then we can talk. He's like, why would you want to put your daughter through blood tests, blah, 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 brain scans, etc.? And I'm like, because if there's something wrong, then I want to know now, because I'd like to get on top of it before she's 18 months old. Why should I wait? And if there isn't anything wrong, then I haven't done anything to harm her.
And Vanessa, what was going through your mind at that point, that people are telling you pretty much you're in your head and nothing is wrong with your daughter, and they're pretty much possibly linking this to postnatal depression, I'm assuming, and that you're a hypochondriac, you're overthinking. What did you start to believe those words that they were telling you at that point?
Yeah, like, I mean, to be honest, I fell into like a really dark place. I was just like, I mean, even my husband at one point like was like, you know, maybe you are just stressing out too much about this. Maybe you are just overthinking it. Like, maybe just let her be for a bit. But again, something was like inside of me just saying, no, I have to do something about it. Something is not right. And I tried really hard not to let those belittling comments get to me, and I pushed through them. And when he wouldn't sign the paper to say that he couldn't guarantee that there wasn't anything, I was like, okay, well then let's do some tests, you know? It's not going to hurt you. We're seeing you privately. You're still getting paid. Let's do some tests. So we did some tests. Everything came back negative. Everything that we did came back negative. And that's because we're very far behind in our medical system when it comes to diagnosing kids with rare genetic or rare diseases. And so when they came back negative, I said to him, well, what else can we do to test? Is there any other test that we can do? He's like, look, he goes, we can do some genetic tests. He's like, so they did a test, a karyotype test, a genetic karyotype, which shows whether or not Gabby has all of her normal amount of chromosomes, which she does. And then he's like, we can do a secondary one, but it's really expensive. And he's like, and I highly doubt, and with almost like every single certainty in his voice said, I highly doubt your daughter has a genetic disorder.
What gave him that hope? What gave him that presumption?
He's like, look at her. He's like, does she look like she's got a genetic disorder?
Is there a look for a genetic disorder?
Well, like, because
you know how they say you don't look autistic. Like, there's no look for autism. So is there a certain facial characteristic?
Because most doctors, when it comes to genetics and genetic disorders, is like they know their Down syndrome and, you know, your very typical ones that everybody knows. And obviously we know that kids with Down syndrome and other syndromes like that have a certain look about them because it changes characteristics of their face. When you look at Gabby, no, she doesn't look like she's got a genetic disorder. And in my own lack of understanding of genetics at that time as well, I was like, well, I doubt she has a genetic disorder as well, because my own understanding of what genetics was what I just explained. So, and so I was just like, okay, but let's just do it anyway, because what if there is something that we haven't uncovered, you know? Anyway, unfortunately, that test came back positive, but it came back with a big fat question mark. It was like, Gabby's got a change on one of her chromosomes, and we don't know what it means. That's essentially what the results said.
In that moment there, where you've had months of doctors telling you no, 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 and then they're actually saying there's nothing wrong with her, you're going a little bit crazy, and then they see a positive result. What was that appointment like in that moment? Did you feel like, yes, I told you, I knew I was right, or was the doctor in disbelief? Or?
When we got the diagnosis, or when he told us that the results had come back and he was explaining it, I was like, honestly, I felt like I went into some kind of parallel universe at that point when he was explaining things to me. I was looking at Simon and looking at Gabby, and I was looking at the results on the computer, and it said, all I could see was the word abnormal. And I'm like, what does this mean? What are you, what? He's like, and in the very little understanding he has as well, he was like, well, it's kind of like Down syndrome. Which it is not.
No. Kind of
but
like
that's the explanation that a doctor of 42 years gave me about my child. And at that point, I just felt like, honestly, like my legs actually gave way. I almost collapsed in the doctor's office, and my husband was just like, you just need to breathe. And I was like, just get me out of here. I literally felt like I couldn't breathe at that point. I just wanted to get out of there. I wanted to get out of the room. I wanted to get away from the doctors. I just wanted to take my daughter to just home and to a safe place, because at that point I didn't believe anything or anybody that anything that anybody was saying to me, because like you said, for months, everybody was just shutting me down. Everyone around me was like, nothing is wrong. She's fine. You're paranoid. You're pregnant. You're over hormonal. Just relax a little bit. And I think that everybody else didn't want to believe that nothing was wrong, and they were trying to make me feel better. And then
Vanessa, what a horrible experience that you had to go through. Like, your intuition was yelling at you pretty much, and no one was giving you any sort of clarity, and you pretty much had to say to the doctor, hey, get it done. So in this moment that you've seen the words abnormal on the screen, and the doctor's presuming it's kind of like Down syndrome, which it wasn't, what was the next step after that? Were there more genetic testings done, or further analysis of the results?
We basically got referred to the genetics clinic at Westmead. And that was basically the next step, because he basically put his hands up in the air and was like, I don't really know what to explain to you. He essentially told me that he knows nothing about rare genetic conditions. And he's never heard of it before. It's not coming up on the database, and that's why. So at the time, it was called 9q1432 deletion.
There's not even a name for it.
There was no name.
Because that's how rare it is.
Because that's how rare it is, and because there's essentially a database of rare diseases, and if something is flagged, usually if it's got a name attached to it because there's been other people diagnosed with it, then it will come up with the name. But because there was like a whole lot of uncertainty around it, they had no idea. It was like, there's an abnormality on one of Gabby's chromosomes. And that's all we know at this stage. So off we went to Westmead Genetics Hospital or Genetics Clinic, and what an experience that was. So we went there to try and get some answers, and walked out with none. We sat in a room and waited for close to what was 2 hours for a couple of doctors to basically walk in and looked at us. And they were just like, handed me a pamphlet, and they were like, look, we're so sorry, but, your daughter's got like a very, very tiny deletion on one of her chromosomes, on her 9th chromosome, and we don't really know how it will affect her, but we've downloaded this fact sheet which tells you how it could possibly affect her.
So let
And
me
I
just
was
rephrase that. A doctor has downloaded a fact sheet to tell you what this chromosome is about,
yeah,
because they haven't got an awareness of it.
yes, yeah. And these are supposed to be the people with like genetics. And
That's
as a
good.
mum, and as a first-time mum,
I would
and
have
my
been very
daughter,
angry.
I had
Yeah.
so many questions, and I
Yeah.
was like, what does this mean? Like, what are you saying to us? Like, I don't want a fact sheet. Like, what are you talking about?
Mm.
And I remember very distinctly the words that she said to me, and I will never, ever forget these words. And she turned around to me and she said, she's like, I'm so sorry. She's like, but just take her home and enjoy her. And
What does
I'm
it even
like,
mean?
I was like, what does that even mean? I was like, what does that even mean? Like, I don't know what you're saying to me right now. And she's just like, this is all that we can give you, unfortunately, you know? And I'm like,
So were they
yeah.
suggesting because there's a high mortality rate with that rare genetic disorder, or because they're unknown with what the outcome will be?
Yeah.
But I just feel like, how hopeless did you feel then when you've come to
Honestly,
these specialists to say, give me answers, I need answers, and yet you're treating me as if I'm another number?
yep. More importantly, they basically made me feel like your daughter's probably going to die. So just take her home and just, you know, enjoy her for however long you have her. And
Oh, Vanessa,
to
how
this
did you
day
feel then?
now, that just makes me extremely angry. That's why I can't forget what she said to me. It makes me unbelievably angry. And for months afterwards, I sat beside Gabby's bed during the night, and like during the day I watched her like a hawk, but particularly during the night I was like watching her and checking to make sure that she was breathing. I probably woke up like, you know, 20 times during the night just to make sure that she was actually okay. And they did that to me because Gabby's obviously here with us. And although there is a high mortality rate in kids with rare diseases, we've overcome a lot of challenges with Gabby. And but she's here and she's healthy and she's happy, and I guess they were wrong in that respect, and I'm still angry that they said that, because they wrote her off as just a sorry, she's nothing, and you know, yeah, she's, you know, unfortunately, sorry, you know, like we've written your daughter off basically. Too hard basket. This is your answer.
Vanessa, being
So
a mum and also a clinician, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that, because it's so unfair, and I feel unethical that you have to go through that without having some sort of answer or even referral point. Like, we're not familiar with this condition, however, we will support you to find the answers, rather than dismissing it.
well, actually I had to find the answers, because for me that wasn't good enough. And for me, it was like, well, I'm going to make sure that my daughter is here with us, and I'm going to make sure that I do everything that I can for her. So at that point, I probably could have just given up and just been like, you know what, the doctor's all right. I'm just going to go with it and go with whatever. At that point, actually made me so angry that I was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. And because I was just like you cannot dismiss my child if you don't even know anything about this condition. You can't tell me anything about it, but yet you're going to tell me that I can just take her home, and that unfortunately, you know, I probably won't have her for very long. So there was a point where we almost moved overseas to America, because there's a big support group in the States. There's quite a few kids who have Kleefstra syndrome in the
So
States.
you said the delay, the 9-2. What was the 9-2? What was the deletion called again?
Yeah, 9429217 something or
Deletion.
other.
So that's actually called so I can't even pronounce it. Say
Kleefstra
that again.
syndrome.
Kleefstra syndrome. And as what you told me the other day, it impacts 1 out of 500 people worldwide. How many individuals have you been able to find here in Australia?
There's probably about 5 families in Australia whose children are impacted by Kleefstra. There might be some more who are undiagnosed, but we just don't know. The number at the moment is just under 500 worldwide.
Wow. And with this genetic testing that you did, was that through the hospital or did you pay for that?
No, we paid for it.
All
the other testing that they did, yeah.
Wow.
We had to pay
why is that? What was the reason why?
They don't fund it. The only thing that they funded after that was they tested me and my husband, and they tested Francis when he was born, and that was the only thing that they covered. Like, that was the only thing the government covered, to test them or to test us of whether or not we carried that same genetic defect, which we don't. And it's not something that's it's not a genetic condition that is something that is hereditary. It's more of a 1 in a billion chances that something like this will happen to your kid.
Wow.
Basically.
Wow. And Gabby was.
And it's like they gave us the statistic of like 0.0001 chance of.
Wow. Yes. So what was the statistic was?
So the doctors told us the statistics of it actually happening was 0.00001% of it ever happening. Yeah. And I mean, unfortunately and fortunately, it happened to us. Wasn't a great way to start off, becoming parents, because it was a really big shock to our system. Me and Simon had only been married for not even a year yet.
Yeah. Impact on marriage as well.
Yeah, it was huge. It was huge it was huge. It was a huge impact on our relationship. But not necessarily in a bad way. Like, it helped us grow so much as a couple, because we had to overcome this like huge hurdle that probably not a lot of married couples have to probably overcome. And all those little things that, you worry about when you first get married and, start raising a family, just get flushed down the toilet because you're just dealing with something so much bigger. And
not as trivial. So talk to me through about the challenges that Gabby faced as a result of the syndrome. What difficulties does she experience now?
So Gabby didn't walk until she was just over 2.5 years old. It took a lot of hours of therapy and a lot of perseverance on our part, and particularly on her part. And she has low muscle tone, so she gets fatigued very easily. So although she walks now, she can't walk very if she's made to walk a really long distance, she gets fatigued very, very easily. She's also got hypermobility in her joints, in all of her joints. So that makes it even harder for her to do loads of things like a typical child her age would do, like running and jumping and hopping and stuff like that, because of the impact on her joints. And she's technically nonverbal. She's got some words, but would medically be classed as nonverbal. And she's got some medical issues. Thankfully, nothing which would be deemed as like major, so like no major heart defects, which is one of the biggest things that does happen to these kids with Kleefstra. Heart defects are a huge part of a lot of kids diagnosed with Kleefstra. So we're very, very thankful that Gabby doesn't have a heart condition. She's got some pretty severe gut issues though. Like, I can't even tell you what this kid goes through because of her gut issues. And
is it a result of the food she eats or just digestion?
It's like the nerve endings in her tummy basically are not basically formed how they're supposed to. So she's got a highly sensitive gut. And also the motility in her gut is just all over the place. So she's been to hospital more times than we ever wished to have ever taken her. We're starting now to we're starting to see some improvement in her gut. And that's because we went and did a specialized treatment in the States earlier this year. And very thankful that we were able to do that. So we're seeing some improvements, which is amazing for Gabby. But it's been a really, really long struggle, like a really hard slog for her, because coupled with not being nonverbal, it's so hard for her to express to us the pain that she's in. And so a lot of the time Gabby will actually bite herself because just give me a second.
Oh, sweetheart. That would be so challenging because she's in so much pain.
Yeah.
Oh, Vanessa.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
No, never apologize. No. It's like you're discussing it all and talking for her.
It's really hard watching her. Just when she's in pain, like, and just in general, but you know, this is her way to tell us that she's in pain, and it's extremely hard to watch your child struggle because they can't tell you where the pain is coming from, and you know, and how we can help them. And as a mum, it's gut-wrenching and probably the hardest part of her diagnosis.
Her not being able to express her pain. Yeah.
Just and express herself in general, but particularly when it comes to just, you know, my 4-year-old can tell me that his tummy hurts, or, you know, or he's got a headache or whatever. For Gabby, we literally have to treat everything because she can't verbalize it. We have to treat everything as extremely serious because we just don't know, because we've seen it. Gabby can go from 0 to 100 in the split of a second. So we literally, I think probably the ambulance knows our house extremely well. Because we literally have to treat every single incident that happens as extremely serious, because when you see her in pain, it's like, you're just like, what do I do?
Give me your pain and I'll live it. Yeah. Just from a communication perspective, I'm assuming you have a speech pathologist supporting you. Have they implemented any support to work on body parts or early vocabulary so Gabby can start pointing to parts? Is that something they're targeting?
Yeah. So now that we understand what's happening to her from a biology perspective and the gut issues and how severe they can actually get, we automatically assume now that it's, unless we see something different, we automatically assume that it's coming from her gut. She does now put her hand on her tummy when she is experiencing pain. And you can see the difference between that and something else going on. Now that we understand Gabby a little bit better. Like earlier on, because we didn't know a lot about the condition, and because she's got a few words now as well. And we can tell now also, like, as a mum, you can tell your child, like,
absolutely,
and you get to know, and like, I kind of know now and have like an instinct for like, is this really, really bad? Or is this like, I'm just experiencing some tummy pains that I can't resolve on my own, and I need your help, So we're able to kind of differentiate now, along with some of the non-verbal and some of the verbal communication that she uses. The hardest thing is Gabby doesn't use any of her verbal communication when she is in pain or frustrated or angry.
It's hard for her. Yeah.
It's like any kid, like they you to cry, like it's like that's what they do, because it's the easiest and fastest way to convey that they are feeling sad and upset and in pain and hurt. So we just kind of have to decipher now, and before we rush her off to the hospital, like, we know now whether or not, I mean, I hope we know now whether or not it's like is this a hospital emergency, or can we take care of this at home?
Wow.
Yeah.
That in itself would be such a challenge to navigate, but it brings me joy that you're able to start to identify and navigate what is best for Gabby, rather than all the time taking her to the hospital and trying to figure out what is wrong.
Yeah. The other
you
thing
mentioned
is,
go.
No, I was just going to say, the other thing about going to hospital as well is most of the time it was a waste of time, because only now, it's only been 2 years since Gabby's on this thing called a GPS, a kid's GPS, where if she goes to hospital, she'll get fast-tracked because of her condition. But it took me almost 4 years of advocating for Gabby to get her on this damn GPS. Prior to that, it was like hours in waiting rooms, this, that, us having to rush her off to a private hospital because they made us wait at the kids' hospital. And like to tell you, like, at one point she was like, unless she's been taken by ambulance, basically, like, they couldn't give two hoots. And then when you see the doctors there, and then you tell them, oh, my daughter's got Kleefstra Syndrome, they're just like, oh, hang on, I don't know what that is. Let me go Google it.
It's like you have to explain the case history again and again. You just want them to have a summary that this is what she needs, this is her condition, this is the intervention that she needs right now.
Yeah. And that's what we have now, because we have a really special team of doctors at Randwick Kids Hospital in the genetics team who are really pushing and advocating for kids with rare genetic conditions. And that was because we got connected with a group in America at Boston Kids Hospital, who then put us in touch with a doctor who used to work at Randwick Kids Hospital, who then put us in touch with her colleagues at Randwick Hospital. And we told them our story and what we had been through. And they were just like, how does that even happen? And so that started a snowball effect. And they were just like, this is never going to happen again to any other family. Let's make sure that it doesn't happen. So we've been working together ever since. And we've established like a small clinic at the Sydney Kids Hospital for kids with Kleefstra. We're trying to push really hard to advocate for these kids. And that's where we're at right now.
So talk to me about why you went to America and what difference in the services you're receiving there to here, and what outcomes have you noticed with Gabby?
Well, the health system over there is just so far ahead of us. It's sad, but I guess also it's because the population is bigger over there, and they have larger groups of kids with these diagnosed conditions. But they just have better doctors over there.
I think what you mentioned as well, because there's a larger population, and when there's a larger population, there's more funds because more children have been, or more individuals have been diagnosed with it. And you mentioned this the other day, in Australia, it's so rare that unfortunately we do not have enough funds because, again, there's such a rare condition where they'll put the funds on something that impacts a larger range of people.
Yeah. The government really honestly does not care about like minority groups. That's the sad reality, and literally this is what they have told us to our face. I'm not saying anything that's like just to be negative about anything, but we've literally gone to the government and they have literally said in those words that we just don't have time for minority groups. There are only small groups of people, and that's it basically.
Did that impact you accessing NDIS at all?
No. NDIS is completely different. NDIS works on like a on
skill based,
like an individual base, based on how the disability will affect that child now and in the future. Basically, how the diagnosis will affect them, and that it's based on medical reports, etc. as well. So no, nothing to do with that. It's more so that in order to get access to therapeutics and access to clinical trials, the only way to do that is to basically have like a clinic set up, and like a group of doctors and families who are willing to participate should a clinical trial come into play, basically. And the government were unwilling and not interested in hearing about it. So the clinic that we established is alongside the clinic of a couple of other rare genetic conditions like Angelman syndrome and another condition. I can't remember the name of it now. I'm so sorry. But
I apologize.
So it's not just targeting kids with Kleefstra, it's groups of like children who are affected by genetic conditions that share like commonalities, basically. So there is a clinical trial that's about to happen in the States, and fortunately, I mean, hopefully it will run concurrently with a trial in Australia. Now that we've got a clinic set up, purely by fundraising, we were able to set up that clinic. But we wouldn't have had the access to that had we not sort of pushed for it. I guess going to the States and seeing some of the things that they have available, and the fact that these biotech companies are approaching like Boston Kids Hospital and other hospitals, it's because they can see that there's like that they give a hoot about these kids. So they can see that they've established clinics, that they've got established cohorts of families and groups. And so these biotech companies need that data. They need that information in order to run their clinical trials. They can't do anything without that information, without those databases. So when we went to the government to ask them for the same thing, they were just like, well, there's not enough people in Australia that are affected by it.
Wow.
So going overseas and speaking with a lot of the doctors, a lot of the questions that we had around Gabby's diagnosis and particularly the gut issues she was experiencing, we've been wanting answers about it for years now, and the only people that gave us answers were the doctors overseas, because they have a lot more experience working with these kids. There's a lot more kids, so I guess we've had a lot more success there.
Do you frequently speak with them to support Gabby's case? Like, you don't always have to travel there, but do you have frequent meetings with the team that link in with the teams here in Australia, in Sydney?
Yeah, we do. We speak to them frequently. It's just not possible for us to travel there all the time. It was
exhausting.
It's so exhausting. And the reality is, I got 2 other kids that I also need to take care of. But the thing is that we can do what we need to by speaking to the doctors from here. We did go over for some treatment at the beginning of the year, and that helped Gabby immensely. And thankfully, we won't need to go back like anytime, like really soon. And hopefully a lot of that treatment can be brought over to Australia, which is what we're trying to push and push really hard to try and advocate for, because I mean, so many families want access to these type of therapeutics and they just can't get them, because not everybody is as crazy as us and will just take their whole family and go overseas, So
first of all, you're not crazy. Don't identify yourself like that. You are advocating the best that you can for your daughter and doing anything that is presented to you. And I believe any parent will do that, but it's a matter of being informed and having the capacity to look and learn from other ways. Like, look where you were initially, where they identified it as nothing, to now where you have access to all this information, and Gabby is achieving many additional milestones and is getting better in some areas of her, and the quality of her life is getting better too. Talk to me about this function that's happening on the 21st of September. What's the purpose of it? Obviously to raise awareness, but what are the funds for specifically?
So we've been approached by a biotech company, and
Sydney based or America?
They're actually New Zealand based, but they've approached Boston Kids Hospital, and because we're working collaboratively with Boston Kids Hospital, they've said, well, we can run a concurrent clinical trial because between the families with Boston Kids Hospital and the families in Sydney Kids Hospital, we can run a trial, hopefully, and but the hospital needs to have funds to be able to do that. So
are you able to disclose how much you need?
So we've already raised $100,000, not last year, the year before, from the gala. And they need $250,000. So 250,000.
So another 150,000. Yeah. And
what would
the outcome? What would the outcome be of this trial? What are they expecting to achieve?
So this company has already run clinical trials with their drug on another condition called Rett syndrome, and that drug has been approved for Rett syndrome. And they have developed another drug that basically will target Kleefstra Syndrome and Angelman syndrome. And so the really positive thing is they've already had a drug that's been approved, and now we just need to see all of those improvements that we've seen in those kids. They need to see them convert to other kids with other conditions, basically. So the trial will be to basically test whether or not this drug in particular will cause changes in these children, like what they saw with the kids with Rett syndrome.
The Rett syndrome, yeah. And what changes do they notice with the Retts, like overall quality of life, so reduced stomach pains, better movement?
So Rett syndrome is a little bit different. It's more of a I don't know if you know much about Rett syndrome. it's also another really rare condition, but it's a progressive condition. So it kind of gets worse as the kid gets older. So it's a little bit different. And what the drug is able to do is it's actually slowing down that the impact of that condition on the child. And kids, so what happens with Rett's, kids actually lose, so they kind of have skills and they end up just losing it. It's like having the dementia or Parkinson's, one of those.
Yeah, dementia,
Yeah.
losing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like a child version of dementia. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what it does is it slows down the progress of the disease, and kids regain skills that they've previously lost, which is amazing.
Wow.
Obviously amazing for families, because who wants to see their child, you know, wither away like that. So it's been amazing, and it actually got fast track approval by the FDA.
Wow.
So
wow.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I believe you'll get very close or to the amount that you need to raise, and so therefore the trial will happen for the other drug. Tell me about this event and the exciting things that are associated with it.
Yeah, so the event's on the 21st of September, and we're having it in line with in September, because 17th of September is Kleefstra Syndrome Awareness Day. We can't have it in the middle of the week, so we've decided to have it on the weekend. We very generously, one of our friends who owns the Rawson Hotel in the Rocks has allowed us to use their venue, and it's beautiful. So it's going to be a really nice night. We've got some really great entertainment. There's going to be a few guest speakers, particularly doctors from the hospital and from the clinic, who are going to kind of tell people where things are at since our last event. I know it's just like a really great way for people to get into the same room and just like have a good night for a good cause, and B, so that we can also just, you know, raise some money to help push this really amazing cause along. I mean, the biggest thing is that like, if the government won't do it, you don't just kind of like roll over and die. You just like keep pushing, and the more support that we can get, the better it is, because the higher chances that we'll raise this money. Like, I'm just not going to take no for an answer, and that's why I'm pushing so hard. And, you know, even I was discussing with my husband the other day, and he was saying, like, you know, like some families aren't as keen to kind of push for things to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but who cares? Because we are doing this for Gabby. And obviously other children will benefit from it, and that's the huge bonus to it. But if I can help Gabby to struggle a little bit less, then my life's work is accomplished. And that's it. God gave Gabby to us for a reason, and I think that this is the reason. I think that he wanted us to push to advocate for her and for other kids. And if you ever get a chance to meet Gabby, which I hope that you do,
I look forward to meeting her one day. She's so gorgeous. That smile of hers.
She's the most amazing little girl that you'll ever meet. And I'm not just saying that because she's my daughter. She's like, everybody that meets her is just like, she's actually like an angel. She's actually like a little angel. And she just pushes really hard. And in those moments and those days where I'm feeling like shit, and excuse the French, but when I'm feeling shit and I feel like I've had like a bad day and I just can't keep going, I look at her and how hard she pushes despite her struggles. And that's what makes me keep going, because despite everything she struggles with, she doesn't complain and she just keeps going. So if there's anything that I've learned from this life, is that like Gabby's taught me that, like, we just don't give up. Yeah.
And it's like, for me, it's working and meeting families like you that gives me that hope that she will get better, because we have parents that can continually push for her. And I'm just so in awe of you, Vanessa, of the advocacy and the strength you have. Like, although you're sitting here, and you're looking at the camera, I can just see the pain that you're in as well, and how the weight on your shoulders. But regardless of all of that feeling that you have, you're pushing that to the side and pushing for Gabby and doing it for her. And as I said earlier, you are her voice. You are her voice. You are communicating for her to say, this is when I'm in pain, Mum, you're helping me find a voice.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
I take my hat off to you 20,000 times.
Thanks, hon. I appreciate it. Thank you. I just, I guess as a mum, and I know you probably understand this because you have kids, like, it's not that we haven't accepted our daughter's diagnosis, because we have. It's just that I would like my daughter, I'd like to see my daughter not struggle. And if I can help change her life a little bit, then I will do everything in my power to make sure that that happens for her. And I will continue to keep doing so long as, you know, God gives me the strength to be able to do so.
And it's with that mission you will achieve the goals that she needs to achieve.
Yeah,
you will.
Yeah,
you definitely will.
I mean, I have no doubt. I definitely have no doubt that Gabby will. Yeah, I think Gabby will. I won't even say like get better. It's not even about a cure or getting better. It's just that I know that Gabby's life will change, and
the quality of her life will get better.
Yeah,
will change.
Yeah.
And there will continue to be hurdles. You will have hurdles, but you will address them in a different way. Because you have answers. You have answers.
We definitely see light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely. And you know what's so beautiful out of all of this, Vanessa? You meet people who genuinely want to help you and make your life better. And I think that in itself is such a rare trait to find in people these days. So there's always, you see things differently when you're working in an area that you've never worked before. Especially like when you mentioned the Randwick team, like, and how they said, we will never let this happen again. That in itself would have been so, I think I would have cried if I heard that. It's like, finally someone who's cheerleading with me, because this is what I've been advocating for.
I mean, if I can tell you, one of the head doctors in the genetics clinic, I mean, I have her mobile number, and she just said to me, basically, just call me anytime anything ever happens to Gabby or you need any advice, just call me. Because A, she saw how hard we were pushing, and B, she has seen a lot of the struggle that we've been through with Gabriella. And I think that they, you know, appreciate the fact that, like, we're still trying to kind of like push on, even despite some of the things that we have been through with Gabby. And that's not a complaint. It's not. I'm definitely not complaining. No. It's just you know, any parent of a special needs child will tell you that, you know, it's not easy. But we are most certainly pushing to do everything that we possibly can, and hence the event. So hopefully loads of people can come along.
So on the 21st of September at the Rawson Hotel, which is based at the Rocks, many guests will be there. And obviously I cannot be there because I'm away that weekend. But how can people...
But you're doing enough.
No. How can businesses or individuals that cannot attend donate to this special cause? And if businesses want to donate for the auction, what can they do? Obviously, it's all in the link that I'll provide.
Yep. And so they can go to Gabby's Journey and contact me via her Instagram page. We are so appreciative if anybody would like to donate anything. It would be amazing. So we are having a silent auction, a live auction, and a raffle on the night. and there've been a lot of really generous people who've donated so far, including yourself. Thank you. And I don't even know what I was just about to say.
Can you entice the listeners with any nice gifts or prizes they might win?
Yeah, so we actually today we just had donated a signed Pelly jersey.
Sorry, I'm not into sport. Is that sport?
Oh, it's soccer. It's a soccer.
Oh, so yeah. I'm like, Pelly. What's Pelly? You've seen a different side to reading now. What's sport?
To sports fanatics, it's something. It's something.
I thought a pasta for a second, like Pelly.
But
well, that's also, great. Then you've got a Pelly signed jersey.
Do you know the Bulldogs?
Yeah, but I don't support them. So
yeah. Well, we've got a signed jersey from the Bulldogs. We've got tickets, like box tickets to the NRL game.
Oh, that's so good.
We've got a couple of like weekends away, which you might like. There's one to the Hunter Valley, and we've got a lot of things that have actually been donated so far, which is amazing.
And I really hope you were showered with amazing gifts and prizes for people to just donate, and if they win, they win. But I think, I know people would donate because of the importance of this, not only for Gabby, but for any other child that is born with a rare condition, but also for you, Vanessa, so you can get that fulfillment that you also achieve something, and that in itself is such a beautiful achievement, you know.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, hope it's a successful night, and we're very.
It will be a successful night. It will be, regardless of the outcome, it will be a successful night, because you're raising awareness, you're bringing people together in the one room to speak for children like Gabby, and for Gabby herself, but also for others to realise the importance of this. And I think what we said earlier, little things in life are so trivial not to even worry about, because there is more things to worry about in our lives.
Yeah, for sure. There's a link.
I'll put the links on the and I'll put it on the show notes as well, and on the Instagram story. But before we finish up, I wanted to ask, how are you?
How
are you really?
I'm I don't know. I'm okay. I guess, it's been a very, very long and windy road. But I'm okay. I mean, I'm like, we've kind of pushed through a lot of stuff that has happened. I've got a very supportive husband, thankfully. And honestly, we're very, 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 very grateful to God that He's also helped us through a lot of hurdles with Gabby, and our faith is extremely, extremely important to us and to our family, and that's probably what's helped us through a lot of what we have been through. So there are days where I'm not okay, and I'm not going to be like, everything is fine. There are days where I'm completely not okay, because Gabby's got high needs, but I also have 2 other children that also need me, and sometimes I feel like I'm tearing myself into like a million different pieces, because I'm trying to be a mum to a little baby, and a 4-year-old very active boy, and a daughter with very special needs, and so like I have to put on like a million different hats a lot of the time, and it's hard, and we don't have a lot of support, unfortunately. So I'm very, very grateful to the people that do support us, extremely grateful, particularly my mum. But I mean, other than that, like we're okay. Like, we're just doing the best that we can, and that's all we can do. Like,
that's all you can do.
that's all I can do. Yeah.
Vanessa,
and that's just,
yeah. Vanessa, mum to mum, clinician to client, thank you. I really appreciate your vulnerability and how raw and honest you were. I know how hard it is to talk and to dig deep into a spot where you've probably but shoved it all down just so you could have a strong face for your family. But I know how hard this was for you and how you pushed through, but more specifically for Gabby. And as a podcaster and as a speech therapist, thank you. Thank you for your time and for raising awareness of a much needed syndrome, but also for children who are nonverbal and highlighting the need that we need to advocate and provide a voice for these kids, especially when they're going through really challenging times.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, was more than happy.
Appreciate it. So before we finish up for the day, as I mentioned earlier, what's the word of the day that you would tell yourself tomorrow to make you a better version of yourself?
Probably patience. Yeah. I think definitely patience. I'm constantly striving to be a little bit more patient, and just with the chaos that is my life sometimes, it's hard not to be. But I'm just trying to just be patient and not get so overwhelmed with everything that we have going on. So yeah.
Well, I hope you have patience for tomorrow.
Thank you.
So for everyone that's listening, thank you for listening to Vanessa's beautiful story today. And if you are interested in attending the event, the link is in the show notes, but also I will be posting up Gabby's Instagram page where you can contact Vanessa there if you'd like to donate some money or even some prizes for the auction. Anything would be appreciated, even if you share this with your colleagues or family, just to raise awareness, because I feel the more we hear about it, the more people would be interested in learning and will ultimately reduce the stigma around it too. Well, thank you, Vanessa, for your time this evening, and I wish you all the best on this event, and I'll be dancing from another air state.
Thank you.
Make sure it's live or something and I can watch it live.
I mean, we might actually go live on the event, probably the auction.
I'll be there. That'd be a good idea. If people can't attend, they can watch it live. Thank you again, Vanessa, and have a gorgeous evening.
You too. See you, hon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.